Hello everybody, so welcome to another episode of The Science Shed. It's Nick here. I'm recording a little preamble before we dive straight into a feast of podcast treats. So, what have we got for you today? So, Steve and I are going to be talking about things to do with academia, in particular, trying to get your papers and your grants either published or accepted. Kind of a horrible business. So we'll talk a bit about how nasty that can be, but also be quite funny as well. We're also going to chat a bit about the kind of anthropomorphizing of computer avatars and some of the science behind that, why people might find that sort of thing quite irritating. And finally, we're going to talk a bit about conferences and presenting posters and how weird that is if you're an outsider. Anyway, please do interact with us. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, or you can do that on iTunes as well. Drop Steve or me a line. You can interact with us and ask us questions, and we'll maybe discuss some of the things you mention in later podcasts. You can get me on Twitter. I'm the Evans Lab, and Steve is Steve the Chemist. Yeah, so get in touch. Let us know what you think, and hopefully enjoy this podcast. And here it is. We're in the Science Shed! Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Come on, Steve!
Bunsen!
Burner!
Dolly!
Machine!
Internal!
Combustion!
Why do we need?
Steam!
Petri!
Dishes!
Oscar!
Base!
Isaac!
Newton!
Transplanting!
Science!
Steve, it's great to be... So Steve's invited me up to Cambridge again, so...
Welcome.
So we've come up to Cambridge because I'm doing some work with Steve, and Steve's now a fellow of a college, which means he gets rooms in a like one of the colleges, and also can invite me to stay in a spare kind of college. I'd call it a suite, actually, on the cheap, basically.
Yeah, it's a privilege, I suppose.
I know, and I'm kind of like an academic visiting Cambridge, so I'm entitled to come here and do that. And basically, this room was amazing. It was like the biggest. So there was a living area, wasn't there, with like a big table in the middle, with like kind of leather-back chairs. There was an ink stand.
Yeah, it's not like a kind of Las Vegas suite.
No. It's like an old schooly sort of what you'd see in Harry Potter.
Or like if Dickens was staying somewhere, that's where he would be in an old coach house somewhere.
And they even had a box set of Sherlock Holmes books
in
the bookshelf.
Of course they did.
Yeah, with like a little no TV, of course, no TV in the room, but
Yeah.
a box set of Sherlock Holmes.
Do you know, I think there's a TV room somewhere in the college.
Is there?
Yeah, I don't know where it is because
I bet you get ostracised for watching television in Cambridge.
we have that there for profiling purposes.
But they also had the other interesting thing. They're in a Yellow Pages from 2002.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed Cambridge, and it's good to have you here.
It's nice to be here, Steve.
And it's good to work on the paper.
The 7-year paper. So what's been going on in the science world, Steve?
What's been going on in the science world? You mean personally or just in science world in general?
I'm just interested.
All right. Well, so we've been doing some experiments, working on a few problems. We've got a few papers that are out for review at the moment, which is one of those things. So when you write a research article, it has to go out to review, and people get to, without revealing who they are, critique the science you do.
I'm trying to think of an analogy for what would happen. It's kind of like you produce something, and then it gets someone says whether it's good or it's bad. It's quite horrible. It's quite you put your neck on the line.
It's definitely so uncomfortable, isn't it? Imagine if you wrote a song and everyone said they hated it,
anonymously,
like
and it's kind of like
YouTube.
trolling.
It's trolling.
It's scientific trolling. It is, because you send it
they
out, and they're all anonymous.
They are the bottom half of the internet.
Sometimes they have like an alternative name, like reviewer 1, reviewer 2, and basically they say how terrible what you're doing.
I think the idea is that they try and make the paper better, but yeah, inevitably it comes out as that we disagree with your conclusions, or we want more data, or can you explain this better?
Yeah, so the journal he sent it to, there's a dude, the editor is just kind of like a guy that looks at it and then he chooses people who he thinks know what they're talking about.
Yeah, world experts.
Who are they can be world experts. Often they're not world experts. They're not national experts. They're not even village experts. No, that's not always true, because sometimes you get really good. But sometimes it's, it's quite spiritual. But he sends it out to them, and then they sort of pick holes in what you've done. So it's quite an exposing thing to do, because when you're working, you spend a lot of time investing,
thinking about
heart
it.
and soul. Yeah, thinking very deeply about it. You probably, in some senses, you think, well, there's some doubt. You're doing it for a reason, but some people could argue with it.
Does the data support the conclusions?
Yeah, or is the reason for doing it valid in the first place?
Yeah.
Is it a good way of doing? You wasting your time, wasting money? So people can say things like that, and it can be very depressing. So how many reviewers have you got on your? Have you had the reviews back yet?
Yeah, we had 3. One of them really liked it. One of them was kind of indifferent, and one of them didn't like it so much.
And what the editor said, change some stuff.
They said they've given us some time to change some things.
Oh right, yeah.
So so it's actually quite, like you say, it can be quite. I mean, you're quite anxious about it when you see the email that says, "Here are the reviewers."
My God. It makes my stomach turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you read it and you're like, oh, I'm going to have to spend...
Because the thing is, normally, you know the weakest bit of your research. You know where the holes are. And when the reviewers point that out, you kind of, deep down, you knew that was the chink in
my
the
blood
armor.
is running cold at the moment, because I've got something like that at the moment, and I know where the unavoidable hole in the story is. But you kind of hope that they don't spot it.
Or that they don't think it's as
or that they,
conclusion.
or sometimes that they know about it, but they suggest something interesting, offer sucker, and then you can change something a little bit, and then it makes it a bit of hope.
And it's also, so these people are volunteering their time for free to the journal as part. We all kind of do this as part of your kind of good citizenship as a research scientist. You actually do this for free.
I think a lot of it as well. I'm not sure how altruistic it is, because a lot of people, there's kind of a guilt thing about it. And if you get asked, the same person is later on might be appraising whether or not he wants to accept your stuff. So you've kind of got like a...
So you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours.
Exactly what I was thinking about,
yeah. No, I think it's kind of, that's the reality of it, but I don't think that's not quite the philosophy of it.
Yeah, I mean, we got one recently, and we got 6 reviewers.
Wow, that's a lot.
Oh my God! And they all have different opinions. Some of them like it, some of them don't like bits and pieces. Other than want more stuff. So you spend, and you have to. So there's another convention in how you reply to them, because you can't just say no, he's wrong, and then expect something interesting to happen or for it to be accepted. You have to argue point by point in a politically, well, is that the right word? Politically correct. You have to
polite. Polite, yeah. I think
you have to be polite,
even if you're not feeling polite personally. You have to.
Yeah, you say something like, "Oh, we are very glad the referee has
we thank the reviewers for their helpful comments.
We thank the reviewers. It is interesting that he has noticed this thing. We have changed X, Y, and Z. Nevertheless,
however, and then you get to say, I disagree with them. So, it's not complete. You don't have to do everything. You can argue your point sometimes. But so that's kind of, I think, how these things work. And we were talking about before, we were writing a paper together. So hopefully we'll read out some. Have you ever had someone say something really mean?
Yeah. Sometimes
you just get something that's not productive, that's not constructive in any way. It's just mean. I had one once on a grant. They said, I find it highly unlikely that this person can succeed where the entire pharmaceutical industry has failed.
Wow. Have you succeeded yet?
Well, I didn't get the grant. So, which I thought was so I laughed at it and I thought, well, you don't like it very much. You think it's a bad idea. Other reviewers thought it was a great idea. But what was interesting...
Did he kill that? Did he or she kill it?
Yeah.
Why did they listen to that person?
I don't know. It was frustrating. I got lots of very good marks in the other reviewers.
How much did that one give it, a low one then?
Yeah.
Well, I've had one like that recently. I don't want to go into details because it depresses me, frankly.
But also, let me finish my story.
Sorry, Steve.
That you kind of think about the comment, right, which is clearly just there to sink your boat, sink the battleship of your grant. But the thing is, when you when you think about it, like I find it highly unlikely where the entire pharmaceutical industry has failed. Like that's also any piece of research ever published has succeeded where the entire pharmaceutical industry has failed. In fact, the role of the pharmaceutical industry is not to publish research papers. So it's kind of a dumb thing to say.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. I mean, generally that's why research gets funded, because it's the stuff which is high risk usually. So like you fund a load of
fundamental understanding.
Yeah, which everything else is built on. It's the foundation of everything. You need it. But yeah, I mean, it's an unreasonable comment, really. It's conjectural and sort of slightly rude, I think. It is not constructive.
Exactly, and that's
you should
not
keep
the point.
it to something that's constructive. I mean, I had a similar comment recently that said, "Is it a very similar thing?" Maybe he's got a point, but
maybe it's the same person.
But you never know, and I think the
maybe
point
that's a stock phrase.
You get one person. Sometimes when they get sent, if you've got like 5-6 reviewers, you might get 4 of them who are quite supportive and they like it, and you get one person who really slates it.
But it's the Amazon philosophy, right? You know, when you look on Amazon, they'll be like, we'll get 5 out of 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars, 5 out of 5, and there's that one person that says they don't like it very much, you know, and then that's the person you listen to, isn't it? That's the person that gets into your subconscious. You think about the 1 star.
It's not a place for the thin-skinned science. It reminds me of I used to watch Space. Steve, you're a Space fan.
I love Space.
Space.
Do you reckon Simon Pegg would listen to this? We send it to him. We could tweet him.
You could try. He's too busy, like being really successful in Hollywood.
Yeah, but you know, everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah. Anyway, so he there was do you remember in Space? He was a cartoonist. His character.
He was, yeah.
Tim Bisley.
Tim Bisley.
Yeah, named after filing cabinets, I think.
Is he really?
Well, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I see
There's
filing
grey,
cabinets.
there's
Say Bisley at the top.
Right.
Bisley.
So in your head was
I thought
Simon Pegg?
I thought when they were writing it, they thought, well, what's kind of run of the mill filing cabinets.
That's
Tim
why
Bisley.
Yellow's called Yellow by Coldplay, isn't it? Because he wrote the melody and he got to it and it was all, he kind of looked around, saw something yellow, and he came up with Yellow.
Oh, that just proves
I know
that Chris Martin is...
But you just said the same philosophy for that you think's going on with Simon Pegg.
How is seeing something yellow? I thought maybe that they were making an informed choice that he was an average character, and a filing cabinet in an office is kind of something that's quite average. So there's more.
Right. So
it's not just he looked around and went, Bisley. Anyway, look. The point that I was trying to make is that, he was a cartoonist.
He was.
Yeah, but he had a fear about putting his work out there. He was drawing them, and he had this mental picture in his head all the time of the boss of the cartoon company looking at his drawings. Shit.
It's from Dark Star Comics, right? That was the guy.
Yeah. So, and that when I think about sending my papers off, I've got that vision in my head of that man.
So it's a man. It's not.
Well, in Space, it was a man.
So for you, it's a man.
The
scientific equivalent is a man.
Yeah.
Generally, I think women would be much more constructive.
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Men are much more pig-headed, I think.
I think so. Yeah. So anyway, it's disconcerting, and you've got to have a.
So currently, there's the big man in the skies laughing at you.
No, he's not. He's in one of the research councils with all of the money.
With all the money.
Oh, they're in a room. Oh God, we could talk about grant funding councils as well, couldn't we, Steve?
That sounds pretty exciting.
Oh, we've had enough. That's a topic for another day. Let's leave it there.
Okie dokie. Right, Nick.
Steve.
This week in science.
What?
So this is, I think this might be a recurring theme. I just thought of a paper I read that I thought.
What happened this week in science?
Well, so when I mean in science, I don't mean in general in science. I mean in Science magazine. So there was a paper published this week about a psychology study where they were looking at anthropomorphizing assistants, right? So
what assistants?
Like digital assistants. So like Siri and Google and the Amazon Echo.
Oh, when you go and you say, "Okay, Google,
or hey,
I want
Siri.
to go to the shops."
Exactly.
And it talks back to you and says,
"Exactly." So
go to the shops.
So do you think that would be more or less creepy if that had a face? If there was a digital assistant looking at you in the morning when you said...
Depends what the face looked like.
You can pick whatever face you want.
Could I have naughty naughty stuff?
No, you can't have naughty
Could
stuff.
I have a
You can have naughty stuff if you want.
what? So like kind of maybe a topless lady.
You want a topless lady. I love the fact that your mind goes straight in the gutter. Just nose that face plants into
Well,
the
you started
gutter.
it with the anthropomorphizing the voice, and immediately thought, well, Siri is kind of like, oh hello.
Do you think Siri's sexy?
Hello, I'm Siri. Well, no, but it you know,
She's
I'm
got
a
a
man.
twinkle.
I'm a man. She's a woman.
Who said Nick Evans isn't a complicated human being?
I die.
So anyway, so the study showed that on average, by not humanizing these kind of digital assistants, they were found to be less intrusive and less creepy and less kind of skin crawly.
So people prefer ones when they're more
they're an abstract, just floating nobody, right? So
Does that apply? Sorry, does that apply to like things like I was on the tube, obviously, when I came up, and the voices on the tube, mind the gap.
yeah, but if
Stand
you've been to
clear.
King's Cross,
They're
so King's
kind of
Cross, there's a
inhuman.
little projector, like fake person saying, "Can I help you?" And there's a
Oh.
little projection of somebody.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, isn't it?
Oh, is that? I've seen one of those before. There's like a white
It's
cardboard
in
cutout.
King's, Cross, yeah.
Oh.
But anyway, right. So the study found exactly what you thought, what you purported to believe is this this idea that if you've got a face there, it seems a bit weird, it seems a bit sinister in some respect.
You have to be distracted by.
Well, so they were saying, so they looked at things like remember Clippy on the Microsoft Digital.
He was the walking paperclip.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
I
look like
remember that.
You look like you're writing a letter.
Oh, I hated that little git
Well, do you know why you hated it?
because he was too.
Nuh-uh, because he had a face. If he didn't have a face, you'd be loving him.
I think he had hands.
Hands and feet, I think.
So
yeah.
how about hands and feet? Would I?
Well,
pay for
I think
that?
anything that as soon as you give a kind of computer or an AI some kind of like corpuscular form.
But what if it was like, okay, so about the same time that Mr. Clippy was around a long time ago.
Clippy.
I don't know. I don't give a crap whether you call him Mr. Clippy, Mrs. Clippy,
What's
whatever.
his
It's
name?
Clippy, whatever. You're so finicky, Steve. Anyway,
I'm a scientist.
Clippy.
Nick. Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
that's often a good idea.
Yeah.
When you say things like that, I know to back off.
Yeah.
My God, otherwise bad things will happen. Do you remember that time? We didn't know. We'll move on. But anyway, there was about the same time there was a thing I had on my computer. I like cricket.
Right.
I really like cricket. I actually love cricket.
You love it.
Yeah, I like cricket. Watching it generally. But anyway, there was a thing called Desktop Richie,
Desktop Richie.
and it was Richie Benno,
right.
who's a very loved cricket commentator. He's
Okay.
passed away now, unfortunately. He was my favourite.
Was this before he passed away?
Oh yeah. This
Right.
was
'Cause that would be weird.
he died relatively recently. This was more than 10 years ago. But he was a little Desktop Richie, and he would be on your screen, and he'd walk across occasionally, and he'd read out what the current score was in the cricket.
Right. So this would be
I
like
liked
every
him.
5 minutes or something, or
A
10
bit
minutes.
long, maybe sort of.
So you're
10.
going about your day, you're clicking away, you're writing
go,
papers. Well,
"I'm
this
right.
is probably 10 years ago, so you're
It's
probably
now
like
200.
checking MySpace or something like that.
Yeah. But I liked Richie Benno. I wonder whether if they used people who were kind of treasures,
So like maybe we could do the David Attenborough one.
Yeah, I think he would be the ideal.
He just comes on. Stephen
he's
Fry,
ve-
maybe.
No, I think David Attenborough and Richie Benno are in the same category. I think
Bagpuss.
people are more irritated by Stephen Fry. I think
You think he's become a bit more,
Objectively.
not quite as a national treasure?
he's not as inoffensive as David.
That's
Attenborough,
true. He
for
definitely
instance.
says offensive things that Attenborough doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah,
stays
he's-
away from those kind of
Attenborough, Richie
contentious
Benno,
stuff.
they're sort of gentlemen.
Right.
You know, they don't get involved in controversy, and they're very well respected.
Right.
Stephen Fry, I really like Stephen Fry, but he's a bit more sort of checkered, isn't he?
Indeed, and that's why people like him. I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you think this little this avatar was better or worse because it was actually a real little person?
It was better because I hated Clippy, but I like Richie Benno on my computer.
So maybe if Microsoft had employed famous cricket commentators, then there wouldn't have been such an annoying universe. Because no one liked Clippy. No one liked.
I think that you'd have to make it region specific because there wouldn't be any one universal Microsoft Word avatar which everyone could relate to.
Yeah.
You'd have to have one for Britain, one for France,
Or you do what Google and Facebook and Microsoft and all that do.
just have an inhuman voice.
Yeah, well, that's what happened in Star Trek. It was just the
When?
computer, right? They just said, computer, where's Jean-Luc?
Oh yeah, the computer never spoke.
Exactly. Yeah. So really...
Well, famously in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, The computer's hugely irritating. And they all hate the computer because it tries to embellish it.
Do you remember the computer in A Crystal Maze
No.
that Richard O'Brien used to flirt with in Futuristic Zone?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It disturbs, it makes my skin crawl a bit just thinking about that.
But yeah, so that was a genuine bit of psychological research that was done this week. It was published in Science about people's attitude towards anthropomorphizing things and particularly artificial intelligences and things. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day they won't need to anthropomorphize it because it will be intelligent.
Yeah. Or
So
it'll pick its own form.
What?
The AI will pick its own form.
What do you mean?
Well, it doesn't have to.
Are you saying you were AI, Steve? You're looking at me weirdly then. I was like, what?
You see a deja vu.
Yeah.
It happens when they change something.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, that was the week in science.
That's the week in science. Hooray!
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey. I've got a glass of water now, Steve.
Yeah, we're recharged.
Steve was trying to get me to eat Granny Smith.
That's right.
Why were you trying to get me to Granny Smith?
Apparently, they're good when you're recording
Why?
because this kind of sound you get.
I don't do that. That's just you, Steve.
That's just
You're
that kind of
chuntering away.
masticating kind of. But apparently
You do it in between banging your fist on the table
you're
and making
really noisy, don't you?
tutting sounds.
Thanks.
Oh, this is great.
Perfect radio voice.
I can give you abuse and just claim it's for the good of the podcast.
Thanks, Nick.
You're going to start telling me what I do wrong in a minute.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm much nicer than that. Anyway, yeah. So Granny Smiths apparently stop that sound. So if you go to recording studios or things like that, they have them there. So we should get some apples to go with our new kit we spoke about.
How about dim apples? Where's that from?
That's from Good Will Hunting.
Oh, is it? He was a science dude as well, wasn't he?
You know that at the beginning.
What was he based? He was based on someone.
Really?
He was based on a famous scientist. Not Freeman Dyson, was it?
I don't know.
No, not him.
The Indian guy.
Oh, you know what? It might come back to me. No, Good Will Hunting.
This is terrible.
What?
Podcasting. It's the dude that did the thing. The guy from somewhere.
Someone will phone.
We're
us.
supposed to be intelligent.
But we'll come back later on. This is what you do.
We just overdub it.
No, we don't overdub it.
We just re-record
it. Look, we're just carrying on,
we
and
just
then
plow through.
Later on in the podcast, there's someone. Oh, everyone's sitting there going, "Oh, you pair of idiots." But later on, we'll say, "By the way,
it is." Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about Good Will Hunting. Do you like Good Will Hunting?
I don't want to talk about Good Will Hunting.
Oh, why not?
Because it's I found it a bit boring and contrived, especially the sort of ending.
The ending. I really like. That ending where he's like the best when Ben Affleck's character says to Matt Damon, the best bit of my day is kind of coming to the end of is walking up to your house and knocking on your door and hoping that you're not there, that you've just gone, and that'd be the best part of my day, and that's the biggest disappointment when I realise you're there. I kind of think about doing that sometimes, Nick. I think maybe just go, and people will be like, "What happened to Steve? He went away."
So, are you Steve? You're not depressed at the moment, are you?
No, I'm all right. I just like.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it later.
All right, thanks, Dick. No,
I'll help you.
It's very. I don't know, that kind of liberating thought of just going.
Well, like Reginald Perrin when he goes on and beat.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's called running away.
Is that so bad?
If it's done in a constructive way. I mean, he did it in a constructive way because he wasn't. He was not running away. He was going out there to have his life rather than be constrained by the situation in which he found himself. God, maybe it is running.
Maybe it's like it's all coming back.
All right, see you later, Steve. I'm going.
Bye. Anyway, I suppose you're talking about conferences.
Yeah, I can't remember how we got to this, but yeah.
Good Will Hunting. Oh, dem apples.
Dem apples.
This is all your fault.
Sorry.
The apple segue.
Yeah.
We need to divert that. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about conferences.
Why do you want to talk about conferences?
Because I think it's quite funny.
What's fun?
It doesn't
What's
sound
funny about conferences?
So scientific conferences, it's for anyone that doesn't know, is when a bunch of nerds all get together and talk about science.
Yeah, people know about science conferences.
You think?
I think so, because they're sometimes on films and things.
What film has got a science conference?
I'll just carry on.
All right, okay. So in a couple of weeks, I'm off to Hong Kong. I'm going to Hong Kong for a conference. And,
great.
Yeah, pretty excited about it.
That's a nice place. I've been to Hong Kong.
Been?
I went to Chinese University of Hong Kong.
That's wrong. That's exactly where I'm going.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Because there's another one called Hong Kong University.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
You're going to Chinese University of Hong Kong?
Yeah.
So that's on the mainland at the end of... It's quite near China,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the train line.
It's supposed to be the public transport supposed to be amazing in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it was all right, yeah. I wasn't there... I mean, I went there for literally 2 nights from England, from
That's
here.
a long way to go.
Well, I didn't plan it, and it was my... The university has us a linkage with a lab there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the long and the short of it was booked. Somebody booked the flights based on someone more senior than me at the university, because we were a part of like a delegation type thing, with scientific delegation. And we went there.
That makes you sound much more important than you are. And a delegation sounds like something the UN would send.
I put some smart clothes on even.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went there and we were there for literally 2 nights, so I didn't really get a chance to experience it. So I'm hoping that when you go, you'll be able to report. The only things that I did, I went to see like the Thousand Buddha Temple, I think it was called. And I went into the island, Hong Kong Island, one evening, and we went for a meal and had a few drinks.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
Right, well, I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
And so when you go to a conference, one of the things that people may not know is there's a couple of ways of communicating your science. One of them is to give a talk, like a formal talk, and they're harder to get. So I'm going to a conference that will have about 200 people in it, of all people around the world that kind of do similar things to what I do in my research lab. And we're going to talk about, what our latest research. So can't you show off a little bit at a conference, don't you? It's your opportunity to show off.
I mean, it's a conference, so you go there and you talk to other people who might be interested in the stuff you're doing, and you want to tell them what you're doing, because that's the whole point. People, if you're doing science that's important, people want to know about it. Yeah. And that, and
they want to know the face behind the paper they made.
Well, if you've invented the next amazing thing, if you don't tell anyone about it,
no one's going to know.
No one's going to know.
Exactly. But anyway, so one of the ways you can talk about it is orally, so you can do it via a talk. But also, there's you can do it via a poster. A poster, Nick.
Oh, I knew you were going to start talking about posters.
Don't you think a poster's kind of funny? That we're all sat round, and sometimes I'm there, and I kind of look around, and there's all these like incredibly intelligent, educated people with all these like PhDs as far as you can see, and everyone's just made a little poster with a little picture of their face on it.
Do you put your face on a poster?
Some people do.
I never would put my
How about
face
a
on a
QR
poster.
code? Do you ever do that? I do that now.
What?
You know those little scan codes you can scan with your
Oh, is
But I
that
bet-
what they're called? QR codes?
QR.
Oh, QR. Yes, I knew that. Yeah. God, I'm so technically unsavvy.
Yeah.
People don't really use
Associate
QR codes.
professor.
There was like a thing about having QR codes
Really?
several years ago, but they're less used, I think, than they used to be.
I normally try and put it on because it just links to your website or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll think about doing that next
But anyway,
time.
so I've got to make a poster. So I'm going. Anyway, so what you do is you make. It sounds stupid for people that don't know this, but you.
I'm going to Hong Kong
No.
with my poster.
With my poster to talk about, just to show some people my poster.
It is quite
And it really
naff.
is. It's not like one of those words that means something else. That means more technical. It just looks like a poster with your research on it. And during that time, you stand up in front of it. And people come around and talk to you about
It's
it.
kind of like a really crap trade show, isn't it?
Really crap, yeah.
So instead of having like a couple of people from a company with
Free
some
pens.
stuff, giving out some,
There's no free pens.
you could do that.
Maybe I should do free pens.
Maybe you could do that. Yeah.
Maybe we could get see if people will tweet me ideas of how to make my poster more appealing.
Tweet Steve, everybody.
Tweet me.
All you out there, tweet Steve.
All 7 of you.
No, it's 8 now.
There's 8. There's 8. It's gone up by another one.
Okay, we'll keep counting.
Right. Yeah. So
So I mean, I've done this as well, and
Yeah.
I agree with you. I went to Australia once
to show someone a little
to
picture.
show someone a poster. I went to Cairns. I mean, right. So
That's a long way to go.
Science. If you work in science, it's not a very well paid job, and it's busy. I wouldn't say it can be stressful. It's a nice job. One of the perks of being a scientist is you can go to conferences
Around the world.
Yeah, it's like one of the few good things.
And in fact, it's actually built into the majority of funding mechanisms.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
actually encourage people to do this.
Yeah, because it's an international business, and when you work in kind of like a small area, like because most people, if you're doing science, you have to specialise, otherwise you won't be any good, or you won't know what you're talking about. So you have to work in quite a narrow area. The people that work in that narrow area there'll probably only be a community of 100, or it depends on what you're doing. It could be fewer than 100, but they'll all
People
be around the world
doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. So in the olden days, like in the times of Darwin, people would always write letters to each other.
Yeah, we don't have time for that now.
No, and then publishers published the letters
Yeah.
that people wanted to tell other people about. That's how journals got started. And now, if you want to communicate with people, rather than just writing letters to each other, you arrange people, societies, sometimes companies for profit, they organise a conference and you go there.
That all sounds quite learned, Nick, but really you're just showing a little picture of each other.
You go, you take your poster, and basically on the poster, it's usually A0, so it's quite a big
poster,
big poster,
big picture.
There'll be some writing on it, and it says what you did, why you did it, what you found out, and what it all means.
Exactly.
That's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah, and so if you're ever at an airport and you see a load of people with cardboard tubes, it's almost certainly some kind of scientific
They're
conference.
not bazookas, they're people. And you'll be able to tell
Don't take a bazooka into an airport, that is not good advice.
Well, they found, like, that was a problem in the early days of the poster taking on planes, I think.
People would put...
Well, people didn't know what they were probably at the beginning.
Right.
I think it's become much more frequent, even in my career.
Right.
So in 16 years, I think the whole poster thing has...
The pictures.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we could get some quantitative data on the use of...
Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you go and then you use a poster, and people, if they read about it, so you get issued with a little leaflet or a book, and it lists all the titles and sometimes a bit of information, and then a number and you can find the poster by the number. And people who are interested in like meeting you, God, it's almost like dating, isn't it? People who are interested in meeting you, they come in and they'll have a chat to you, and they said, "Oh, look, so you've been doing this too."
Yeah.
Oh,
what's your problems?
Yeah. Did you find when you did that, and you'd be like, yeah, but what you do is you do that, and then they go, oh, wow, that's really interesting.
Well,
hey, we should do. Have you ever thought about doing? And then you talk a bit, and then sometimes if you're lucky, you meet someone very interesting or very good, and you can sort of start to build a professional relationship.
What I find quite beneficial is when I first went to a conference, and now I find this with some of the people that work with me in my lab, is that no one ever writes things down in scientific research articles that don't work. But at a conference, you can speak to someone and say, have you tried this? And they say, yep, it didn't work. Yep, we tried that. Yep, we tried that. And because there's a kind of publication bias of only showing things that do work, people never share information that doesn't. And a conference is a really good way to explain to people all of the things you've been thinking about and what you have tried and what you haven't tried. And it's actually really quite fruitful and beneficial.
It's totally true. Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with that. It's kind of like, it's the underbelly. It's like the sort of nasty, scarred, messy, and dirty underbelly, where all of the grubby stuff is about, the unclean side.
Yeah, but that's where all the stuff gets done, right? That's where the devil's in the details.
Where I like to dwell. The dirty underbelly. It is very much that way.
In the Science Shed.
Oh God, we're in the Science Shed.
Yeah, the dirty underbelly of science.
Yeah, so well, I've got to do one of those. So I've actually got to make a poster, and because otherwise,
where are you going? You going to Hong Kong?
I know this one's actually in Sweden.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to Uppsala in Sweden.
It's a very good university.
So I hear, yeah. So I have to make a poster. My student actually is presenting.
Right.
Actually, the poster that I'm presenting is another student. So
you haven't got to make the poster.
Well, I'm kind of in that hinterland when I'm not really doing the experiment anymore. Right. So it's not me who's doing the work; it's the student.
So there's someone in your
lab. But I'm not
doing
important enough for someone to say, "Oh, we will invite the great Nick Evans to the conference." So I'm kind of in
the prefix "great." That's what you should always insist on.
Yeah. So I'm kind of in the middle. So I don't. It's difficult to talk at conferences sometimes. I mean, sometimes I have done. I mean, you can submit something a bit more general. And sometimes you can talk about what you're doing. But I'm going to present a poster, but I've got to make the bloody thing.
So this
first.
is the thing, right? So people might not know this, but there's a bunch of scientists just like making a little picture to go and take away and show other scientists.
I've allocated 3 hours on Monday morning in my calendar because otherwise it's not going to get done. And basically, you have on your computer, you've got a big document, and you get lots of pictures, and you move them around, and you make it look nice with columns, and you have little diagrams and all that stuff. So you try and make it look attractive.
Yeah. Try and get rid of Times New Roman.
But I tell you what, it does my nut in. I can't be bothered with it.
No,
Do you like making posters?
I do. Yeah,
Why do you like making posters?
I like the aesthetic. I like making them look pretty.
Well, maybe I should embrace it more. Maybe that's my problem. I should dive in.
You should do
feet
it.
first.
Make it look beautiful.
Maybe I could. I tell you what. Maybe I could make it tactile.
Ooh, I went to one poster once, and all someone did is they printed out a big like picture that they liked, and then they just like velcroed in the middle an iPad, and then they were just playing something on loop on the iPad, and I thought, that's not a poster. How dare you? And then I thought, maybe I'm being a little bit pig-headed here. Maybe this is the evolution of scientific communication.
That's a good idea.
Just sellotape an iPad.
So you just produce a piece of audio-visual stuff.
Yeah, if you're research,
You could hang a couple of headphones off it as well.
just play some Rush.
You know, like in.
Just everyone could just hang out, enjoy some
Look,
Canadian
if that
rock.
happened, no one would go and look at any other posters.
You'd be there.
I'd be there. Yeah.
Maybe with one other Rush fan.
Chronological order.
Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Come on, Steve.
Bunsen.
Burner!
Dolly.
Machine!
Internal.
Combustion!
Why do we need
Stove!
Petri?
Dishes!
Oscar.
Base!
Isaac.
Newton!
Transplanting.
Bunsen!